Hey everybody, welcome back to the Seeker Stories. I just wanted to check in with everybody. It has been quite a while since my last video went up. Let's call it a hiatus. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer Seeger, and this is the channel where we share a lot of our home stories, just a bit of our life, what's going on, as well as our adventures, including some Disney adventures. So again, if you're new, welcome. Please go ahead and subscribe and like below if you enjoy the content of this video. But yeah, it has been a while. I think my last video went up at the end of January. It may be a little confusing because that was the kickoff to saying, you know, here's the start of the Disney trip that we took in December. I did film all of the days of our trip. I think we were there for 7 days, both in the Disney parks for all the Christmas festivities, and then we spent a little bit of time at Universal as well. So I did film all that. I do still have the intention of getting that content up on this channel. So we'll have a little bit of a Christmas in spring, summer here coming up. But I just wanted to pop on, film a quick video, do a little bit of a life update, maybe a little pregnancy update, because again, if you're not aware, you're new here, my husband and I are expecting our first baby boy coming up here any day now. I am 38 weeks pregnant. So it's been kind of a whirlwind of the past few months. Now, a little bit about me. I do work outside the home. I have a full-time job. We had a lot of travel that was happening in the fall and kind of wrapped up with our Disney trip, and then kind of, you know, springboarding into the new year. We had a lot of home projects that we just really needed to get done, like for my sanity, before the baby came. We redid 3 of the rooms in our home, scraping down popcorn ceilings, painting. We put up these beautiful bookshelves that you see behind me. We had some family stepping in to help us, which was wonderful, but it was a tremendous amount of work to get done. And I'm gonna say while pregnant, because I feel like even though I had a good second trimester, and I'll get into like a little bit of a recap of the pregnancy, I'm lucky that, you know, the insomnia and the nausea that I was really experiencing during my first trimester kind of went away, and I was able to have, you know, pretty good second and third trimesters where I was feeling great. But I feel like pregnancy is still just, it took a lot out of me. And I heard somebody describe it as like, you know, you can't operate at 100% of your old self. And so you just have to give 100% of what you have to give. And that needed to go towards doing the projects in our house. And then, you know, my work really ramped up. Again, I work full-time outside the home. We had some staffing shortages issues. I was covering other jobs. Meanwhile, preparing for my maternity leave, which I'm actually on now, before baby's here, to just take a few days and some deep breaths and get ready for everything. So that's a little bit about where I've been. I just wanted to say a big thank you to those of you that had left me a comment or reached out and had, you know, let me know even before I explained what was going on. Kind of, you know, you checked in and you said, you know, you completely understand where I'm at in terms of pregnancy. And number 1 was taking care of this baby. Kind of a close number 2 was getting our house in order, because like I said, it was a big projects to take on. And I just, for my mental health, I needed to have that stuff done before baby got here. A lot of people would reach out to me and say, you know, what gets done, gets done. What doesn't, doesn't. Don't worry about it. It's just a house. And I get that. I do. It's not like it was taking a priority above, you know, the safety of the baby and things like that. It was just kind of a, you know, a season where needed to take time and really focus on getting those projects done. So again, my mental health, I feel like I am a person, and not everybody's like this, but I really don't do well when things don't have homes or everything is not in its place and kind of organized. Now, is it perfect 100% of the time? No. But for the most part, you know, we've gotten to a place where the house is put together. Even since we moved into this home, which was in October of 2021, we knew that we had some projects. If you watched any of my other videos, you've heard me kind of do some sorting of some craft stuff and things that just didn't have homes. They were just hanging out in what we called ugly bedroom. Sorry to the previous owners who put up birdhouse wallpaper. That's your life. That's kind of what we nicknamed it because it had terrible carpets and things like that. So, you know, in building these shelves behind me, we have, you know, cabinet storage for a lot of the craft stuff. And, you know, I won't cover it in this video, but if you're interested in kind of seeing a tour of what we did, leave me a comment below. That's something I would certainly love to share with you. We love how the rooms turned out. There are still some works in progress. We don't have closet doors. We've just decided to forego that for now because we don't have simple solutions to this house. But again, if you want to see some of that content, leave me a comment below. I would love to share it. I did not share the room transformations, and I started to because we started in this office, actually is where I'm sitting, kind of my office / craft room. And we had tore this room up the day that I found out I was pregnant, like, or the weekend, like, cause no joke, we tore it all up. We went to Home Depot to buy supplies. We came home and I'm like, I'm super tired. I'm not feeling great. And took a pregnancy test. And it was like, okay, now what have we gotten ourselves into? So I just knew these projects and things needed to get done, but it is, if you film, you know, that anytime you're gonna set up the camera, you need to worry about camera angles and lighting and, you know, editing the videos and all the things. So we didn't film the room transformations, but I do want to share that, you know, maybe in future content and vlogs. So that took up quite a bit of time, especially, you know, putting together the nursery is now what we used to call ugly bedroom. So I will definitely be giving a nursery tour. I will say that because I'm just super in love with how it turned out. So look forward to that future video. But when I sat down in January to edit all of the Disney footage, it just became almost instantly overwhelming. And I just was getting very emotional, you know, with the pressure I was putting on myself to get videos out. And my wonderful husband, Nate, kind of stepped in and he's like, you know, you just have to be accepting that you can't give, you just don't have all of that. He's like, you know, I'm wanting to get these things up, you know, just as personal goals. I really enjoy having this channel. I enjoy sharing content with all of you. But it's like I said, it's not my full-time gig. So something had to give, and that's where we were. So that's kind of an update on where I've been the last few months. Like I said, I definitely want to film a nursery tour. I want to share, I'll share in a minute here just a little pregnancy updates, but the Disney content is still coming. And as things have settled down, they're about to get crazy again because baby will be here. We still hope to be sharing a lot of that with you on the channel. So like I said, if you're interested in seeing any of that upcoming content, just make sure you are subscribed below and click that bell icon so it's coming at you. When I filmed a video, and I think that went up back in October, kind of announcing our pregnancy, and I did a first trimester recap, I talked a little bit about, you know, like the struggles that I was having in the first trimester, namely with insomnia, and then with a lot of nausea and food aversions. And thankfully my doctor had recommended to me to take some Unisom to help get me sleeping through the night, which also helped curb the nausea. So I was very grateful for that. Like I said, my second and third trimesters have run pretty smoothly, especially the second trimester. Started to get my appetite back, still had some weird food aversions, which if I put up the videos from Disney, you will see whatever spices they use in German food. Nope, wasn't for me. I really couldn't eat any, I got so sick. Not like actual sick, but I was like, we did a day at the Germany Pavilion, the beer garden restaurant in Epcot, and like every single thing I tried just turned my stomach. So that was kind of funny, but for the most part I did better in eating foods, not having so many aversions. If you know me, you know I am a big coffee drinker, and that was heartbreaking to not have throughout my first trimester and kind of well into my second. I feel like it was maybe even into late January where I started having my daily coffee again, decaf. I still can't handle almond milk. For some reason it turns my stomach, and I had had that every day of my life for years. I always had coffee with almond milk. So there were still some things, but for the most part, you know, not the same amount of aversions that I was having at first or the nausea. I was actually craving some pretty crazy things. One of the meals that Nate watched me eat a lot, to his horror, was a piece of whole wheat toast, had to be whole wheat, with some raspberry jam, a fried egg, and a piece of American cheese on top. And that was a staple go-to for me. Like, so good. I still eat them now. Actually, I think non-pregnant me will still enjoy that because I like those flavors, but he's super grossed out by it. So that's been a go-to for me throughout the rest of my pregnancy. As I was feeling better, I did have, you know, a lot of doctoring, as I mentioned when we did our pregnancy announcement, that I am considered high risk. Again, if you don't know me, I'm in my 40s. I'm actually 43 and expecting our first child. It was not without what do I want to say, complications to get to where we are and successfully having a baby. I have a couple blood clotting disorders. I am considered, you know, plus size or overweight. I am, you know, over age 35. They consider anything over 35 a geriatric pregnancy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like close to 10 years above that. But all of that said, there was a lot of monitoring that happened, but overall I've had a very, very healthy pregnancy, which I am so grateful for. The second trimester, like I said, smooth sailing. One thing that really marked it for us is I was getting really good sleep, which is something that I hadn't had in the first trimester. So I was sleeping great and having super weird dreams. Like, I would just wake up laughing at the things that would come up. Like, people that I hadn't seen in years that I went to high school with were just randomly appearing in my dreams, and just weird things like, I'd be with a friend and she's like, you know, we're hanging out with so-and-so, and I'm like, oh great, I haven't seen him since high school, that'll be fun. She's like, don't mention his earlobe. And I'm like, I've never noticed his earlobe. And he had like 2. Like, where does that come from? Or somebody from high school called me to be their UFC fighting championship coach. Yeah, of course, I'll do that. And they're like, okay, I'm competing in the breakfast bowl this weekend. And then we get there and it's an actual breakfast bowl. It's like a big waffle with sausage. I mean, like, what is going on in my head? I think the one we laughed the hardest at is because in my dream I was a stand-up comedian and I thought I was so clever. And the joke that I made up, even when I was like waking up and coming out of my sleep, I was like, that is just a super clever joke. And it was like, what is a raspberry jam fish's favorite breakfast? It's like, I know I sound like really stupid saying this, but I'm like, I don't know what is going on in my subconscious, but like almost every night for months, I was just having the weirdest dreams. So that was super funny, and something I want to just remember from this pregnancy. I had intentions of doing like, you know, maybe monthly or trimester updates. Didn't happen. But a couple things that I just want, you know, to remember from me, those like really weird things that we just laughed out loud at the craziness of it all. So I started my third trimester in late January. My insomnia did come back in my third trimester. My doctor said that that can be common for some women, that they just pick that up again. Really, it didn't start right away in the first trimester, but I'd say I've been dealing with it now. I'm at 38 weeks as I'm filming this. And it's probably been just, you know, a couple months of usually going to bed at a decent hour, waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, and then not being able to fall back to sleep until like 6 or 7 a.m. which is a challenge when you have a full-time job you need to get to. Thankfully, mine's pretty flexible and I could get there till 9, but trying to get like an hour nap in the morning was brutal. And the coffee that I'm drinking is, of course, decaf. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I'm drinking decaf this whole pregnancy, and I actually, rather than take like a Unisom pill, which I was taking in the first trimester because it was like twofold, it was for the nausea and the sleeping, I didn't take anything, or haven't been taking anything in my third trimester. But I did switch to half caf, which is a safe caffeine level for the baby. Not that I want to be reliant on caffeine, but I didn't also want to be reliant on a sleeping drug. A lot of people had recommended melatonin to me. And I don't know what it is about me, but I have always been so sensitive to melatonin, even taking like a 3 I think I tried a 5 and then a 3 even. I don't know why I'm so susceptible to it, but I'll take that at night and it's just impossible for me to wake up the next morning. So that really quickly just, it wasn't as good an option. So have been struggling a little bit with sleep in the 3rd trimester. But other than that, you know, I've been pretty comfortable. Things have been good. I am considered high risk, so there's been, like I mentioned, a lot of doctoring going on, a lot of blood tests. We did find out that even though I'm taking a lot of supplements that my doctors recommended and adding in throughout the pregnancy, my iron levels continued to be low, even though I'm taking like an iron, like a slow release every day. So I was getting that, but my levels were just dropping. So they actually did send me over to go on some infusions at our, you go to the cancer treatment center and it's, you know, just get your own little room and they put the IV in. I would call it like liquid raisin time because that's literally what it looked like. The Venofer is what I was on and it was just like 3 infusions. And thankfully, that brought my iron levels up for a time. Just got my blood work back from this past week and they are starting to fall again. So that's something that I personally struggle with. That has been kind of one of those, I wouldn't even say complications. Like I said, I've had a really healthy pregnancy, but that's something that we've had to keep looking at. I have been going in for ultrasounds weekly. They'll do an ultrasound. They call it a BPP and it is just completely escaping me what that stands for. So I'll pop it on the screen here. But the BPP scan every Friday where they're measuring blood flow in the brain. They are measuring blood flow coming through the umbilical cord. Baby has to take 30 consecutive seconds of practice breaths. He's terrible at that. He's naughty. And they'll keep you on the ultrasound for 30 minutes to make sure that he's doing that. But it has to be consecutive. And sometimes we'll get like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. And it's like, come on, dude, cooperate. So we've had that. I think I started those at about 32 weeks. So for the last 6 weeks, I've been going in every week for those scans. And then they will put me also on a fetal heart monitor just to make sure that his heart rate is kind of, you know, drumming along, kind of spiking at, I think 14 spikes they need to see in 20 minutes. So he does better on that, but he is a wiggle worm. So a lot of times we'll have to move the heart monitor around. Speaking of being a wiggle worm, because he is, and every time we've had an ultrasound, the techs have said that, like he was doing barrel rolls one day and he just does not sit still. So we're in for just a fun treat when our little guy gets here with all of his movements. But at 29 weeks, I had gone in, or right around 29, 30 weeks for an ultrasound, and he was in position. He was head down, smooth sailing, no problems. And I went in at 37 weeks and he had moved his little head up and he was now what they call transverse. So his little head is over here on my left side and his rump was over here on my right side. So that kind of came up or to a head like the Good Friday was the day that we had that ultrasound. We're like, how did he move? And my doctor said it's really rare that a baby will move, you know, at 37 weeks. They would usually move at, you know, 36 or less. 36 would be the most. But he was clocking in around 6 pounds, 4 ounces. And so he still had some room to move around in there, I guess, and decided he didn't like where he was. So he went transverse. So we were sent home that Friday knowing we would come back in on Monday and see if the little guy moved where he needed to go. And gave us some like at-home remedies to try to get him to move back where he was. My doctor had recommended putting frozen peas on his rump to kind of freeze him out and make him turn back head down. And I could feel he wasn't moving. We tried that like that Friday and Saturday night. And then Easter night, I was like, go big or go home. Go get the industrial ice pack. So we have these like, that we use for camping, these ice packs. And and I had Nate sit and talk to me for, it was over 45 minutes that I had this ice pack on my side. We were like Googling signs of frostbite from ice pack, like just to make sure that everything was good. But like, and I didn't get hurt because it was super uncomfortable. It was burning, my skin was going numb. I was like, Nate, just distract me, talk about anything. But I kept it on there until I felt him like turn. So we went in on Monday for the next day, that afternoon, for a scan, and sure enough, he had turned head down again. So that was just lovely. That was great. The problem was that the nurse wanted to check me really quick, and it was the first time in my entire pregnancy that my blood pressure had spiked a little bit, and it had never been high. I also was having some stomach pain that day, which I just mentioned. I thought it was from, like, I was training somebody in at work and like sitting hunched over and whatever, but the combination of the stomach pain that was constant, it wasn't a contraction or anything, and the blood pressure meant I had to go over to the hospital, and they had to rule out preeclampsia, which they did very, very quickly. It was probably just like a spike due to, you know, I don't know, rushing around, or maybe just because my stomach was hurting, and I still have no way of knowing why that was hurting. Something I ate. I don't know what the deal was. But as I'm laying in the hospital with the blood pressure monitor on, waiting for lab test results to come back, I felt him move. And I was like, oh no, what are you doing? And sure enough, we went back to do the ultrasound that Friday, so this past Friday, and he's transverse again. Actually, he started out what they called oblique, kind of at an angle, and he was doing a scissor kick with like one leg down and one leg up by his face. There was a foot by his face. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, am I giving birth to a contortionist? I don't know. Maybe we'll be looking back on this someday and be like, oh, that's why he joined the circus, because he's like really flexible. Anyway, all jokes aside, he did, while we were on the ultrasound monitor, move transverse again. So we are kind of playing a waiting game where we'll go in again to see if he can get his little head down. He has moved a few times, and I have felt him moving around in there because he is, I don't know, he's a wiggly baby. So we'll find out again, you know, this Friday if he's head down or sideways. And if I go into labor and he is not head down, we may be looking at a cesarean section, which is not part of my birth plan. I'm very prayerful and hopeful that we can have a natural birth. I feel like I've been very, very blessed to be healthy, low blood pressure. Everything has looked great every step of the way. And I really, really would like to have a natural birth, but we don't plan these things. That's in God's hands. So, you know, at the end of the day, we are just hoping to have a healthy, happy, very wiggly baby. So, those are kind of my pregnancy updates. Like I said, wanted to come on, just do a quick life update, kind of explain where I've been, MIA. Hope to be filming a lot of content coming up, of course, allowing time to bond and spend time with baby. But there are a lot of things that are changing and happening in our lives. And for the most part, I do want to have those documented. I love having this channel as a way of looking back at, you know, the life Nate and I have had, the family that we formed together, and now the family that we'll have when little baby boy joins us. So I hope to see you back here for some future content that we have coming, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.